15th of March. I'm your host, Graham from Airsoft Nation, and with me, as usual, my co-host and awesome co-host there, Jim, aka
hey everyone.
PlatoonJim, and we have Sarah, aka call sign Tactiquin.
Hello.
And if it's your first time watching us, this is the weekly collaboration show where we talk about all things Airsoft, bring on our special guests, and discuss the most recent Airsoft news. You can find us live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. But let me introduce our guests coming live all the way from, I believe, California. It's Leah, aka UnicornLeah. Just
hello. Hi.
Welcome to the show. You are from California, right?
I live in California now. I'm originally from Kansas, which is the Midwest.
Yeah, I realized, I was like, hang on a minute, you are in California now still. I didn't quite know at the start of the show. Let me get the comments on there. People are already commenting. So today on the show, we have Leah, and we have a full packed out show full of conversations and some topics, which I'm sure some of them will raise some heavy debates for sure. But before we go in there, let's just find out what everyone's been up to this week. So let's start with Sarah.
Yes, I have. I went yesterday to the morning session of AAA Airsoft, so a bit of CQB. It's covered up with makeup now, but I did actually get my first unicorn hit. So
Nice.
If you go to my Instagram, it's there. I've put up a photograph, so I was dead chuffed. Yeah, so all good, yeah. And I also bought a new pistol as well. It is a Raven. It is a Raven. It's the G17.
Okay.
But it is a custom one. If you go to my Instagram, you can see it. It's painted in the Harley Quinn colours. I should have had it here, actually.
Ooh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, it did actually get quite a few likes, actually, but on Instagram, which was a bit of a shock. But yeah, dead chuff with it. Absolutely dead chuff with it, because it's a one-of-a-kind custom. So yeah,
very cool. Who did the custom work?
It was on a website called Airsoft Imports, but it was G-Tech Paints. Yep. It's all on my Instagram, so if you go over to _Tactiquin, it'll all be there. So yeah, they do some pretty awesome customs.
I'm gonna say they've done some really cool Badlands or Blasted Land stuff, and
they have
very, very much kind of comic-y style looks to their work. Really nice stuff.
Cool.
So, that's very cool. Jim, you had a weekend off.
Yep. Yeah, nothing Airsoft happened at all for me this weekend, which was a refreshing change, but I have literally killed my liver in the process of it. So, yeah, I don't know if I can even run around anymore with the damage that I've managed to inflict on myself. If you're ever looking to go to Bournemouth on a stag do, don't. It was bad. No, other than
is that bad as in good, or good as in absolutely bad?
As bad as in Bournemouth has all of my money, my dignity, and yeah, just don't do it.
Stag do in one there, right?
Pretty much. It wasn't even my stag do, so yeah.
And Leah, did you play this weekend?
This weekend, no. I stayed home and I edited video all weekend because Jet and I had just been traveling for the past 3 weeks playing Airsoft. So, and then this week, Airsoft Alphonse is coming to visit us. So we're going to do Airsoft with him for the next couple weeks too. So I spent the weekend catching up on going through videos and trying to scrub through a bunch of video footage that I need to get on YouTube.
So for the last 3 weeks, where have you been playing it? I presume there's been some Milsim West events.
So I was at Milsim West, the Grozny Insurgency. That was in Mississippi. And then I was in Dallas, Texas for about a week. That's where Jet's kids live. And so we had spring break with them in Dallas. And then a week after that, we were in Dallas playing. There was a Desert Fox Events game in Waxahachie, which is just south of Dallas, Texas. And then we came home and then went to go play for the weekend at Wildlands. And now this past weekend, we decided to catch up on all that footage.
Man, that's a crazy amount of playing. And I can only imagine how much footage you guys have got to go through and scrub through for both your channels.
Yeah, lots.
Sarah, you don't film your stuff, right?
No, I don't. I am looking into doing it, and I have asked I put a question out there on Instagram, what's the best camera to set up on my gun? And I think they came up with the brain exploder. I think that's what the majority of people were talking about. So I am looking into doing that. But editing, I've got to learn all of that. I don't have a clue about editing. So there's all of that to learn. So it'll be a long time before I actually get it going. But I would love to. Yeah, I'd love to get some gameplay videos going before anyone accuses me I don't play.
Just wear a regular, get a GoPro session. I like to wear a camera all the time, just so that way, even when I'm not recording or not planning on uploading the footage, just so that way if people are like, you're cheating, I can be like, here's my footage. Look at it.
One camera gets shot out, then you've got the one on your head.
Yeah.
So that was quite funny because Jet said something like that probably about 6 months ago in a video, like he feels that everyone should wear one to stop that situation happening.
Yeah, I think everyone should have. It would be nice if we could afford for everybody to have like a regular camera and a zoom camera. I advocate for the zoom camera the most just because that helps you realize where your shots are going. And a lot of times we'll think that, I'm hitting somebody, they're not calling it, but it turns out we're just not all as good at airsoft as we think we are. They fly all different directions after so far, no matter how many lasers your gun shoots.
I don't think I could go through the effort of putting a camera on and remembering to start it or to stop it or then to think about going through 7 hours footage. Although I did try the aim cam glasses. And I don't know if you got them over there in the States, but that is the camera that's on your glasses. And I know there's a lot of real still shooters that do use these as a way when they're shooting clays or whatever. But there is only a 2-hour video time on there unless you start connecting to battery packs, and I think at that point it's probably quite cumbersome putting a battery pack on top of your glasses. I'd like the idea of maybe something like that because it's not quite obtrusive. You don't have to worry; it's just on your side of your head. But we shall see. It's one of those ones where it's more expensive than sorting a GoPro out, but maybe that will get me round to think, right, I'm only going to have a couple of hours footage to go through. I mean, you guys going to Milsims must have hundreds of hours after events like that.
Yeah, we try to turn it, for a lot of them, we try to only turn it on like when we know stuff's going to happen, because otherwise, I'm not going to go through an entire 40 hours of footage on 3 different cameras. No. No way. Yeah,
just reading through some of the comments there. Guys, feel free to comment throughout the show if you're live. Whether that is on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, feel free to leave a comment and we'll do our very best to read them. And don't forget, while you're here, why not share the show to other airsofters, whether it's into a group or on your own personal page. Feel free to share the stream now so we can keep building Airsoft Radio and keep bringing on amazing guests. So thank you so much for that. So this weekend, where are you off to? Sorry, Leah.
This weekend, Airsoft Alphonse. I don't know if anybody watches YouTube. The LMG man. We are hosting him as part of our International House of Airsofters. It seems like he's flying in. He's going to stay actually with Jet and I for a couple weeks, and we're just going to film some pickup games and fun videos, vlogs, skits and stuff. So he's going to be here for about 3 weeks. We haven't decided where we're playing this weekend yet. There's about 5 or 6 fields here in Southern California to choose from. And so that's our plans for the weekend, is play Airsoft with Alphonse. Let him choose.
Star Wars memes for weeks.
Yeah, Star Wars and workout memes.
He might poke his head in here. He does jump in the chat every now and again between the shows. Fantastic guy. And obviously just broke 100K just a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
So,
he's killing it. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, prior to you coming on the show, we did say, you know, throw us some questions, stuff you'd like to talk about. It's one of the things we like to do to see what's going on. And one of the questions that you put forward here to talk about is one we're going to come back to later. But guys, if you're here in the comments right now, Leah wants to know any rumors you've heard about her or Jet.
Yeah.
So any airsoft rumors you've heard about her or Jet, leave them in the comments. We will come back to that later. It's one of those things of, are there any rumors there that you may have heard over the years of playing, or if you've watched it on the channel, or something generally through the community? Feel free to leave a comment because we'll come back to that one later.
Yep, they're always entertaining.
But before then, what we were going to talk about is women in airsoft. Now, Leah, how long have you played now?
I've been playing now for 6 years, I think. Yeah, I think I've started playing in. I think I started playing in 2012, so maybe 7 years.
You would have seen quite a big change of how many women are in airsoft now as opposed to 6 years ago.
Yeah, when I first started playing, I would go to the field and I would see like maybe one other girl at the field, maybe. And now every time I go play, I see it depends on what kind of game I'm playing and where I'm going and the event, etc. But I normally see in between like 5 to like even at some, I've seen at some milsims like 30 girls, which is awesome because before that, I felt like I was all alone all the time.
Even when I started in beginning of 2016, I was the same. It was maybe 1 or 2 other girls there. Sometimes it would just be me. And if I saw another girl, I'd go, "Oh, it's a girl."
I'd say the same thing.
And you like try and talk to them like they're the only person there.
Yeah.
But now I'm not as. I mean, it may be different in America, but I don't think I've ever seen 30 girls. But definitely a lot more girls are playing it now. Definitely a lot more getting into it, which is great to see. But what you wanted to talk about was how we get more women into airsoft. So if you want to elaborate on that point, that'd be great.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I'm trying.
I know. That's why I wanted to ask you, but it is a difficult question. Go on, sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to know if anybody that is watching or has played, have you been able to get somebody that you know into airsoft that's female, or do you have a suggestion as to something that you would like to see that maybe you would like to get more females into airsoft? Because I'm always looking for stuff. Personally, I think that the ability to modify your loadout and kind of wear whatever you want to wear, as opposed to having to do a certain impression or necessarily look like a soldier all the time.
Yeah, there's no rules.
Yeah, I think the cosplay aspect, it makes airsoft really fun, but that's just something that I personally feel, so I'm interested to hear what other people think.
Go, Jim. Yeah. Go.
Animal cosplay. Can't think of anything worse.
I just think that having lots of different dynamics and lots of different opportunities for people will help get more people into airsoft, because if you can only do one thing all the time, then I feel like it gets really old. And so that's why I think that having all kinds of different kinds of types of airsoft and game styles and loadouts, I think that is what helps get more people into airsoft, which brings more money into airsoft, which brings cooler stuff into airsoft, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, let's be fair. I mean, you're known for coming up to events and sometimes being dressed pink as a tactical unicorn, but then you'll go to a milsim and be dressed and with the ratitude for the event. And like you say, it's more about knowing the setting and having the opportunity to use what you want and how you want at these events. Jim, what's your thoughts on the situation? So, so Jim's played airsoft for as long as I have, so 14 plus years, and we have a slight different situation in the UK in the way that airsoft was legalized because we were military and law enactment, really, or reenactment. So that was our defense for airsoft about 10 years ago. But Jim, what was your thoughts on it? Because I know you'll probably be polar opposite.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, yeah, airsoft. It's great that airsoft gets bigger and what have you, but with it comes more dickheads, more people that don't take their hits, more people that cause aggro, more people that are, just like. I'm not saying it needs to be elitist, but what I am saying is it feels like it needs to be going back how it used to be, where it was taken a little bit more seriously, where you don't have people turning up with, literally dildos strapped to their heads, which I've seen on more than one site. And it's just like, I get that everyone wants to have their own identity and they want to, it's an opportunity for them to come out and, be whoever they are, but be whoever you are at home. I don't really care. I came here to shoot people with a gun. I didn't come here to, do any other stuff. So,
oh, Jim, you would have loved it yesterday. There was someone with a rubber chicken, and he kept squeaking it all morning.
I wonder who that might have been.
See, I'm of the mindset that I think that pickup games are for stuff like that. That's why we have milsim games for the people that want to take it seriously, and then pickup games are for, in my opinion. But that's just me.
I think in the UK, it is, of course, the milsims are definitely for more serious. But our pickup games or our skirmishes, we still have that high level of seriousness. And the problem you've got, and Jim's right in saying you'll go to a pickup game and you'll have a whole squad there with comms and all the latest cry gear ready to go. Yeah. And then you'll get 5 guys in Nerf suits or brightly pink with axes and everything like that. And it very much creates, again, a polar opposite when you go to a game like that. Mm-hmm. From my point of view, I couldn't care less. I'm there for my game, and what you wear doesn't really make a difference on that. But we haven't got that level yet where there's enough games of non-serious airsoft at a pickup game or a skirmish, and enough people as a serious skirmish game, unless you go to a milsim.
I think the problem comes when you. Sorry, I was going to say. I think the problem comes when you try and separate airsoft out too much, to have too many different sort of like compartmentalized things. Oh, like this is for this group over here, and this is for the guys that want to do the reenactment side of it. And you start changing the rules to these things to accommodate everyone's different styles and different, wants and niches and whatever. And then you start having the same people going to other games where they're like, well, we don't play that rule. And then you're like, well, that is the rule. And there are some fundamental basics that kind of get blurred because people want to be
people can't read.
No, because everyone's special and everyone wants to be like the amount of people that do shit just to put on fucking Instagram and go, this was me being different at the weekend. And it's like, show me how good you play, not what you wear, not any of that other shit. It's like if you can quite happily, I don't care who's playing, whether it's old, young, men, women. If you can keep up and you can, kick doors, then happy days. If not, just piss off elsewhere. But that's just me. I'm the grumpiest old man in airsoft. So.
Is it down to site organisers, or event organisers to set that standard? I know we've got a site in Kent that doesn't allow 2 tones. So, Leah, that in the UK, if you haven't got a defense to buy an airsoft gun in black, you have to buy it in half of its bright red or half of its bright blue. So if you haven't kind of played enough games, you can't buy one in black. And this site organizer basically says, nope, you can't attend these games. You can rent our package, but we won't let you play with 2 tones. And is that the same? And I believe he's probably the type of organizer that also says no chickens, no rubber dildos, or no Power Ranger costumes. I've got a very strong feeling.
Yeah.
Would you say it's more down to the site organizer to set that standard?
Yeah, the site organizer and the event host. You're the one that has to enforce the rules. And if you want to cater to a certain niche, then I think it works well. That's why we have essentially that's why we do both Milsim West, which is super serious, very military oriented, and we have something that I like, which is like Desert Fox Events, which leans more towards like cosplay or having fun. And then there's airsoft event promoters with stuff in between, like American Milsim, and I know that you guys have that there. I think like, isn't Sterling Airsoft some of the more serious, the more serious stuff, and then you have like National Airsoft Festival, which it seems like a heyday to me. I don't know.
Yeah, that is more of a social event than playing. Although there's about 3,000, wasn't there last year? 3,000 players, but it is more of a social than playing.
Yeah. You turn it with what you want at that event. There's no real rules. It's go out for as long as you can before the beer pours in. Going back to Women on Airsoft, we've had a great comment here from Rob, and he said his local field in the Isle of Wight offers half price for women to come and encourage more women into the sport. And they've got a few, and there's always more space for more and welcome. That's an interesting idea. I do know that we've had site organisers in the UK, like Valentine's Day, is bring your other half for free. And even Mother's Day and Father's Day, it's like bring your mum or your dad and come and play for free as a way of getting more family involved.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Discount some fields run discounts and things like that. I know that it does trigger some people because I've seen like, why don't guys get half off?
I was about to say that, and I'm glad you jumped in before that. I'm sure someone in the comments will jump to exactly that point exactly.
You don't want more people at Airsoft? No.
No,
I'm kidding.
It's more that let's have equality, but on a different standard. So, it's like, surely the aim is to get people to come and play because they want to play, not because we're going for a type. It could be like, right, let's get more people with, that want to wear red, so we'll discount it for them. And then it's like, well, you just start pandering to things. I just think it's a slippery slope of just like, if you want to come and play Airsoft, go and play Airsoft. Doesn't matter who you are, what bodily parts you were born with, just get involved. I think there's an awareness thing of like, guns are for guys and not for girls, and that's the bit you've actually got to fight. It's got nothing to do with gender at all. It's more to do with the fact of like, let's create some opportunities, but it should be the same opportunity for everyone. That's where I get grumpy about it. It's like, let's not just half price for people just because they fit a demographic. I mean, that's kind of the opposite of equality, if you see what I mean. But again, that's just me.
I mean, I know lots of gun ranges here. That's what you said, that guns are more of a male-dominated thing, and everyone views it that way. That's why a lot of gun ranges here in America have like ladies' night, where they will have women get to shoot for free or women get free entry and stuff like that. So I see it happening even in the firearm industry, and I think that any promotion that is aimed towards getting more people into it is good, whether that be women, whether that be dads, whether that be grandparents, whether that be anybody. I don't have a problem with it, but I don't I don't know. I don't really get as mad about that.
No.
I guess.
Kelly's just jumped in there saying women are the fastest growing demographic for shooting sports. I can see that being a thing, because I think, as Jim was saying earlier, it's more about the perception of this activity is for men and isn't for women, and probably some of the preconceptions about guns being more for male dominant and the activity being more male dominated than not. But the girls that have been there, they suddenly go there and go, hang on, there's no real difference here. And I've always argued that Airsoft's one of those hobbies and activities that doesn't really, there's no prejudice whether you're a guy, girl, whether even disabled, whether you're young or old. Most sites have a space for you to play in one way or another. I mean, my first ever experience back in 2006 was with someone who was wheelchair bound, and he had two MPK5s in his hands, and he could only go around one level of the bunker because it's 2 floors. But he went around and had no issues at all playing. But I think you're right. It's breaking that barrier in terms of what we perceive to be and male activity.
Even with the, sorry, I'll just jump in there. Even with like the rental, the groups of kids that you see come that take the rental packages, they're all little groups of boys, because the boys want to do it. And what I'd love to see is like groups of little girls coming along in a group for their little day out as a birthday party. So I think it starts from quite young, this attitude that, like you say, guns are for boys and dolls for girls. So if only it was, the other way around. But I think it starts quite young, and that attitude goes right through it. And even now, it would be such a cool thing to see 50% women, 50% men at events, but you don't see it. And I know Kelly commented that it's growing, and it is for all shooting sports, but it would be cool to see like teams of women. And I've seen, like, you go on Instagram, you look at Brazil Airsofters, there are teams of women who play together. You look at Chile, there are a team of women who play together. But to see that in the UK would be awesome. It would be amazing. But it's to get that interest. It's to get that interest initially.
So I'm going to ask both the women here on the show, and how did you get into airsoft? Because I'm going to have a strong feeling that you're both going to go, my other half got me into it.
It was actually friends. For me, it was actually a bunch of friends, and they all played it, and I went along with them. So it was actually a bunch of friends that got me into it.
Boyfriends or girlfriends?
Oh, boyfriends. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I'd never heard of it 4 years ago.
Yeah. I discovered airsoft on my own. I was actually playing before I met my husband, before I met anybody in airsoft. I actually didn't know what airsoft was until I saw an ad for it, and then I was like, I went and applied for an airsoft job, actually, and it was just because I was like, oh, I'm from Kansas, I know about guns. And so then I went there and I was like, oh, these are toy guns, this is weird. And then I wanted to know like how to sell them, so I went to a game and I was like, this is so fun. And then I started playing like every weekend because I was having so much fun with it. And that's how I got started, was just playing by myself. I was actually like bumming rides from a bunch of random people all the time. And like, I didn't have any friends that played airsoft. I didn't know anyone that played airsoft. So I was just on forums like, hey, does anybody play airsoft? Can you give me a ride? Can we, like, I'll be your friend for the day. And that was how I got into airsoft.
That still reminds me of a few people, but we know. Are you playing this weekend? Can I bum a ride?
Yeah. I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I didn't have a vehicle because like you don't need one living there, and so but I needed one to get to like airsoft fields because they were further out in the country, and so I did like I either borrowed or I did like zip car if I couldn't find a friend, but I wanted to bum rides because it was like the easiest way to find friends.
It's like, only in America do you know about guns before airsoft.
Right?
That's quite funny. Out of interest, Jim, how did you find airsoft? Do you remember how you found airsoft?
Yeah, I remember quite vividly. It was I was working on a short film for a friend of mine and bumped into some guys, some random guys in a car park that had a police car and sort of like police props, and they had a boot full of airsoft guns, and just started asking questions, and they took me along to a game, and it all sort of snowballed out of control from there. So it's to the point of where it then becomes your job and your Monday night and everything else, and it's not just for Sundays, but it's and what's weird is even back then, like, and we're talking sort of early 2000s, there was a woman that played in the team with the guys that I got involved with. She was going out with one of the guys in the team, and she was like, her attitude was, don't treat me like I'm a woman here. I just want to get on and play. And she actually found like almost like the opposite problem. She's like, she she didn't want anything to be about gender. Now, she didn't end up playing for long because she went off and obviously she was with her boyfriend and they settled down and had a family, and that kind of meant that she couldn't play airsoft for a long time, for at least 9 months anyway. So, and I think that's the thing, like that. Again, there's probably a reason, without opening up myself to a whole rabbit hole of problems here. But I just wonder whether or not, will we see women playing for long? Like, will women tend to play for X period of time, X age group of time, then go off and have families? Because again, until men can get knocked up, which I'm all for that if it's possible. We then see a big gap, and then they return to airsoft. And again, it's like, I think there must be quite a few women out there that have had that as an experience, that have been playing for as long as I have. You can't expect for a whole 15 years of play where it's easy for guys because we can just be completely irresponsible and go, nah, I'm not interested.
I see that same thing happen for men, though. Like, they have kids and they're just busy all the time, so they stop playing as much. I think it's a cyclical thing for a lot of people, and then they get back into it when their kids are old enough to play.
Yeah, I mean, we I can't believe the conversation went there. I was going to get worried where you were going with that, Jim.
I think it's sensible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I stopped for just probably about 2 years when I got a new job and got married at the same time. Mostly because I had to sell my airsoft stuff to pay for the wedding and pay for the suits for the new job. But yeah, I mean, I think people's lifespan of how much they play airsoft depends on when they get into it. And if you get into it young, you tend to either play until you're in your kind of college uni days, where either you carry it on or you find alcohol, and that drains your bank balance. And if you get out the other side of that, it is a case of you've got a family and maybe you go with the kids, or it's become your Sunday sport where you used to do football as a lad. Now you're going to play airsoft with the guys or the girls. But you're right, there obviously is going to be that midpoint where, whether it's your career, whether it is having a family, that you kind of take that hiatus out of it. I mean, I can't imagine it's like day one after pregnancy, the first thing you want to do is not grab a nice glass of wine. It's, no, I want to get out on the field. I don't quite see that being.
You never know,
Sarah.
Which way around? I don't know.
You take him, I'm off. Jim, sort me out. I need a new gun.
Strap it to me back, put the iPro on it, and off I go.
Cool your hits.
Whoa. That's too young to be on there.
But I'm sure one tigress do something. If they do mounts for dogs, they might do a baby carrier by that point. So
there is a baby carrier, but I wouldn't recommend it for airsoft. There's like a tactical baby gear, and they make a tactical baby carrier and tactical diaper bag and all of that stuff.
I mean,
of course.
So how many magazines can they carry for me on the field?
Can they pass them to me?
Yeah.
And you spend all your time saying, put that baby back in the magazine. Stop putting it in your mouth.
Don't eat them.
Yeah.
They're not sweet.
Pick up your baby at the end of the day and it rattles.
It'd also be the first time as well that someone went, here, take my child. I've just got to go and assault that position over there. and you just leave your kid with some random stranger that you might not ever see again. So yeah.
I'll do this announcement for Airsoft Radio. We do not condone that behaviour. Take it to him if you've got a problem.
Am I doing the complaints department?
Yeah.
I'd just be like, fuck off.
You got
go get a life.
At PlatoonJim for that one, not Airsoft Nation or not Airsoft Radio.
If you're that sad that you want to complain about something that's said on an Airsoft show, then you've got bigger problems than having to phone me.
And Simmy's Dim just dropped the best comment there. This is a whole new level to. It gives a whole new meaning to the term battle rattle.
That's good.
Nicely done, Sim. So getting more women into airsoft. Jim, what's your thoughts? so as someone who works in a retail store, I mean, have you seen the demographic change? And is there a reason or a way that you've seen over all the sites that you guys set up on over the weekend?
Yeah, I think it just comes to two things. One is making it accessible, and two is not putting people off. And like, I think it's weird, like the whole pink gun thing. I think that puts off more people than it attracts. Because I mean, I've been on sites where site owners have gone, nope, we class that as a two-tone over here, and it's not, it's not to be used. And I get that argument, and I also get the argument that at the end of the day, it's like don't single people out. Oh, girl with a pink gun, or someone's got a pink gun, that must be for a girl. And it's almost like, I've seen guys run around with pink guns, and I would still make the same argument towards that. But it's just like, I think it's all about saying, this is what airsoft is, and do you like it? If you like the idea of running around shooting each other with toy guns and generally being idiots for a day, come along. But like, I think trying to put sort of any kind of gender politics to it and everything, it's just, to me, it's a waste of time. It's like you're either into it or you're not into it. It's as simple as that. But at the same time, I think like the one thing I can't stand is when you then do get girls into the sport or women into the sport, and just have a look on like Facebook or Instagram, just like the way that guys behave to it. Because some of that is like, I'm glad it's not my wife's sister or daughter, because someone would get fucking shot for real. Like,
so guys should patrol themselves then, if you don't like it.
People should just stop being dicks. That's ultimately what it's about. And unfortunately, we can't stop people from being dicks.
Right.
But also at the same time, what I would say, going the other way, is the whole boobs for likes thing. Really, that double standard really pisses me off. When you see people using it to build their following, and then we'll turn around and have a go at people for doing that as well, and saying, oh, it's sexist and everything. And just so people know what my feelings are on it, I'm all for boobs on the internet. I'm a massive fan. Right? I don't want to see less boobs. I just want to see less double standards.
I agree with the less double standards. I think I guess that moves into one of our other topics of the like women using like sexuality in airsoft.
Yeah, you transitioned.
Yeah, that part doesn't bother me really. The only thing that I really care about is if you actually play. If you actually play airsoft, then like I don't have a problem with however art is portrayed, and I think that there is some really cool art out there that shows that can show a lot of skin and that can look really neat and it can look really professional. I just care if you play, really. That's all that I care about. I think that you can do both.
Interestingly, I'll give you an example. There was a, as we say, gun bunny girl on Instagram who I think she actually gets paid to model guns as well. But it's all, boobs out, this is a gun, look at all this. And when I actually looked into her Instagram, I actually found that she does actually play, but she looks completely different when she actually plays. She wears the eye pro, she wears a full face mask, she wears all the proper gear. So she does kind of both. So maybe it is that a lot of these girls that look like they don't play actually do, but they know that they get more likes on Instagram with their tits out. So
well, I know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on. No, go on.
Just to go along with that, I do agree with that. It is kind of frustrating because right now the way the Instagram algorithm works, it seems like that's the only way that any of your media gets attention. Otherwise, everything gets suppressed. On the same sense of girls that are taking a bunch of photos that are not in what they play in, I see plenty of photos of dudes too that I never see play airsoft. Like they just take photos in a bunch of gear and they act like hard asses and they put up all these inspirational quotes and like talk about how tough they are, but they don't even really play. Or if they do, they play like once a year. And it's just like, I mean, they're fakers too, in my opinion.
And they should be banned from the sport as well.
Well, if they only play once a year, do they need banning? I don't know.
Well, just don't put the word airsoft into it then. I mean, I think there comes that fine line of what becomes cosplay, because is it, you see in like some weird military cosplay where people want to go and, literally just dress up as soldiers and do that, and then you start getting into the whole, right, well, this is stolen valor and all this sort of stuff as well. But, those people get outed pretty quickly. And I think a lot of those people get less followers the more it goes on. But with, I think there is a whole point of like when people are trying to sell you an idea of what airsoft is, like especially, I mean, I don't know what it's like from your point of view as women in airsoft, but I would have thought that you might look at that and go, well, that's kind of the wrong image to portray. That's not what airsoft is. If it is a sort of a pouty shot with a gun to try and, sell a false image kind of thing. It'd be the same as, someone stretched across a fast car and going, well, this is the lifestyle that you're going to have. It's sort of is it that they're promoting the wrong thing? And that's why we're not seeing more women playing airsoft, because they go, well, I don't look like that.
Yeah, I was going to jump in and say, is it the way that people advertise airsoft, and whether that is an influencer or a person on Instagram, for example, advertising what airsoft is, whether it's, chest plate but no bras, or whether it is event companies or retailers with, what we saw in the past with legs open with a silhouette of a gun in between. Does that kind of influence on getting new, we'll say, women and girls into airsoft? Because I know from my experience running Airsoft Nation that I do get quite a large portion of newer players, especially younger players. And I do have a demographic of younger girl players who say, oh, look, trying to get my first kit, blah, 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 blah. And the conversation tends to go around of them saying, how they go to sites and sometimes they get a little bit creeped on, which is cringy, especially when you start looking at the age of these kids. And I've been to sites where I've seen some of this kind of cringy behavior of girls who are, under 16, shouldn't even be talking to half of these people the way they are. And I do wonder whether advertisement's definitely that area. We've seen it with cars, and again, I mean, as someone who rides a motorbike and goes to the bike shows, we've seen a decline in that kind of behavior of marketing now. Because more women are getting into bikes. We're starting to see that demographic change. We saw it in gaming, again, being in gaming when there used to be a lot of women trying to sell stuff, and now it isn't. Now it's all about pro gamers and, professional influencers on that front. And maybe that's the way airsoft will go in the future. But right now, as Leah rightly says, unfortunately, the boobs for likes thing is what's working for them right now. Maybe that kind of does also show the infancy of this industry.
Yeah. I think a lot of what I like to see and what I sometimes take inspiration is cosplay stuff, which I know, Jim, you hate. Sorry.
Yeah,
but I have seen there are a few firearm accounts that I follow that do really cool artsy photos that I think are really cool. They are obviously not super realistic, but it's like Clayton Haugen. He does a lot of apocalyptic looking stuff with like Alex Zedra that a lot of people follow. And so like, I don't know, I go back and forth on this.
Tasteful photos,
Yeah, there's tasteful. And then there's also like, there's a huge amount of people that talk about how they don't want to see, I don't want to see this, this ruins airsoft for me. But they also follow it, and they follow a lot of those accounts. Or if they're not following it, they're following like a bunch of like fitness girl accounts or like other accounts where they can see all that stuff. So like, that's a huge, to me, that's very, that's a huge, I don't know. It's it's kind of ridiculous because it's like, so you don't want to see this yet you follow it in like everything else. That's kind of silly to me. Like I said, I think it's okay as long as like you actually play and you know what you're talking about, I think that you should be able to do whatever you want to do and be as creative as you want to be. But that's just me personally. I know that a lot of people feel differently, but I feel like that's the easiest way to get more people in, is to embrace. The more we embrace, the more people we can get into the hobby.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there is a right and wrong answer. I think a lot of this, comes down to a personal perspective as to what you want, isn't it? At the end of the day, like you say, there is some people that say they don't want it are following it and watching it elsewhere anyway, and they wonder why it follows them to other social platforms. It's like, well, you're linked to it one way or another.
Yeah, since following your algorithm.
But I do wonder whether long term we'll see a decline. I do think once the industry starts getting more settled, it's the same way that we spoke about IWA, which is kind of a SHOT Show, but in Europe. How we saw this year companies almost, I won't say get more professional, but start to scrap that idea of advertising and marketing, opting more for product placement or kind of getting bigger name or influencers to be trying to sell the products. Because the big thing is, ultimately, with all of this is that photo, is that person selling the product? Are they there for the product or there for the photo, really? So, yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. I don't think there's a right and wrong answer.
I think you're actually right about that, though. I'll say one more thing. Sorry to interrupt you, Sarah.
Fine.
To what you were saying, Graham, is Evic actually had a talk with me, and this kind of emphasizes what you were saying. And they told me that they're trying to get away from the really sexualized women in airsoft to more, here's women that actually play, here's what they look like when they're playing, here's people having fun. So, and I think that they're kind of one of the leaders in the industry as far as advertising and a lot of other things go. And so hopefully we do start seeing that from more companies and they start following that suit. However, there's other companies like Crytek that are going the opposite direction. So who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Go on, Sarah, jump in there.
Well, no, I was just going to say, at the end of the day, I think when you've played Airsoft for a little while and you come across these girls on Instagram that are so-called gun bunnies, I think you can tell the difference. You can see the girls that really do play because they know their stuff. As soon as you ask one of these girls a question about their gun or about their kit and they go, well, they don't reply or they don't know, then you're not going to last very long. So at the end of the day, they don't bother me personally because those ones are going to just drop off. They're just going to give up because they don't know. And the real Airsoft girl players, they're the ones that are going to stick around.
Yeah,
and that's
well,
what we want.
More in the community, whether it's putting out content or joining in conversations, and kind of weed them out. I wonder how many people following these photos ever actually message the person to find out anything beyond.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So moving on. Now, this topic actually came up earlier on in the chat area, and I did laugh about it. But it was one of the things that I know has changed a lot over in the States, but it's Speedsoft versus Milsim. And Leah put kind of, why do people care about this kind of attitude between what's better? Now, interestingly, earlier on in the comments, and it was quite a while ago, if I can scroll up, someone said we should just ban Speedsofters when we were talking earlier on about getting into airsoft, and someone said, oh, if we just ban Speedsoft, that'll be the answer. So it's clearly deep rooted.
Right.
I know this topic does come up pretty regularly within our conversations, Jim. We have this conversation all the time. So let's start with Leah. Give us a premise to how this is in the US. How big of this is Speedsoft versus Milsim?
It's huge in the US. Obviously, this is kind of where SpeedQB was founded, and we have SpeedQB tournaments now, which they're trying to go more international also. Personally, I think it's good for airsoft because, again, that's going back to the mantra, the more variation, the more diversity we have in the types and the ways that people can play airsoft, the more people we're going to get into airsoft. I've seen it do really well when it's just speed. When you have like just Speedsoft day, we'll have just SpeedQB days. at a lot of local fields in Southern California, and that does really well, and that helps keep the Speedsoft versus Milsim games never go well. It's just a way for people to rage at each other, in my opinion. I never see that do well, but I think that, again, the more diversity that we have in game styles and offerings of gear and all of that, I think the better that we will do. And I just wish that people would stop arguing about it, because, like, who cares what you like to do? Just do it. Gosh.
So at skirmishes or pickup games, do you still have, a percentage of Milsimmers and Speedsofters, and then your normal general day players turn up? Is that an issue, or you don't tend to find that nowadays?
No, it's still the same. I mean, people use the term Speedsofter for anybody that wears a paintball mask, which is not necessarily true. Speedsoft is a whole different style of play in general, and it doesn't matter what you're wearing. It's just basically shooting. It's using not military tactics and just basically running. You're playing more like a video game style. Like Call of Duty style playing, I would compare it to.
Yep.
We still have a lot of that, and so there's still a lot of complaints about it. But what they've done here to ease down a lot of the complaining is, if you are playing Speedsoft style, so that means that, like, you have either a straight trigger or a double trigger, or you're shooting a high rate of fire. All of that has been limited here. So if you have HPA here, you have to have 1 second in between each trigger pull. You can only shoot semi. There's no straight triggers. There's no double triggers allowed. So they are banning a lot of that style of play for pickup games. And I've seen that help a lot at our fields here in Southern California, at least.
That's quite interesting, because that's literally saying that if you turn up with a gun that's got a double trigger, you're not welcome to the field.
Yeah, you have to use something else. And there's plenty of people that no longer have that, because, I mean, what's the reason to have this trigger? It's just to be a dick. Yeah. Like, you have that's what pull auto's for.
Yeah, I mean, I've never encountered anyone with a double trigger over here. I know, obviously, the flat trigger is definitely a thing, and using and doing it as fast as possible with your paintball finger as opposed to your trigger finger is definitely a thing. Sarah, Jim, what do you think?
Speedsoft, it's not anything that I've come across. I've only ever seen it on the internet.
Yeah,
and I like the look
in the southeast.
You see some of these actual dedicated Speed QB sites in America, and they look fun. It looks like a fun thing to do. I like the whole paintball masks and how some of the visors look like rainbows, and I like the way the guns are painted, and I think it's a colourful way of doing things. But I mean, I don't have an opinion really, because I've not been exposed too much to the Speed QB thing. Majority of the people I follow and the majority of people I know do Milsims, and I've done a couple of Milsims myself, and it's not really for me. Milsims are not for me at all. I'm a skirmish day girl. That's what I prefer. But to try something like Speed QB, I think I would be very interested in trying it, just to see what it's like. I'm open to it. I'm not like, oh my God, I could never do that. Throw that out the window, So I know I'm open to it.
You've got to go north of the wall to play Speedsoft.
Yeah,
You've got to get above the M25.
I'm open-minded. So yeah, I don't have an opinion.
Yeah, in the southeast we don't have a lot of indoor sites, so
no.
CQB isn't something that we do, and there's definitely not sites that allow really Speedsoft because there's just not the range in. But again, you start going to the Midlands and up north where there are bigger CQB sites, and Speedsoft is definitely more of a thing. Jim, what's your thoughts? And I know you're like me in terms of...
Oh, where do you start? I mean, despite what people might think, I do actually... The whole kind of like... I don't want to call it Speedsoft. It should just be called like Arena Airsoft.
Yep.
Because I think Speedsoft has become that sort of like negative word now to... as Leah said, labels anyone with a dye I4 mask or something like that as a Speedsofter. But I think there's a place for it, and it's definitely not on skirmish fields. I mean, I've seen it so many times where you get the guy turns up in the jersey, he's got a high capper and a shit M4 that's got HPA on it, and couldn't use it if he was fucking any closer to a target. But they do just upset people because they're the guys that are usually running so fast and so hard that they don't know that they've been hit, or they won't accept that they've been hit. And that, to me, is where I've seen most of the arguments come from. Isn't actually the guns, it's the attitude of the player. It's like, you couldn't get me, mate, I'm too fast. And it's like, no, you're a dickhead. You got hit by everyone before you even got there. And it's like, I think so many of these problems come back to like mindset of players. And I think this is why I get the sort of the stick up my arse about, Airsoft was sort of founded on the whole idea of they're realistic looking guns. So add to that, you're looking to put them into as realistic a situation as you can with a toy gun. So therefore the game and the site that you're playing at, there's that suspension of disbelief that there is a reality to it. And the moment you start putting, Deadpool onesies on and, shit like that, you break that suspension and down. Add to that, you've then got people who now just want to cheat the system by having a gun that's, it only takes 1 BB to hit someone. You don't need HPA guns with 1,000, BBs a second running around. It's like, oh, well done. You managed to hit someone 8 times in the face, and you wonder why they didn't put their hand up. It's like, good job, dickhead. And you get all of those problems come from Speedsoft because it's just not done in the right areas. And I know in the UK there are a couple of places that are trying to get it off the ground, but it doesn't happen over here because there is not enough airsoft to do it with. In the States, I imagine you've got much bigger areas, and you're probably getting a lot of. Cheers, Danny. If anyone's listening to that on the podcast, they won't know, but you'll have to go and watch the live show and see the comment that came up. And I am available. I just think it's become a nonsense because it should be separated. It should be, Speedsoft. I mean, Graham, you and I both worked on Formula 5 for a while, and that was, we both said it could have been so much better if it was just down to the fact that people, paintballers stopped trying to get involved in airsoft. It's like, if you want to play that style of thing, it already exists and it's in paintball, but people are getting out of paintball because it's too expensive, because it's too much competition, because there's, everyone's slagging each other off all the time, and all those things that ruined it. And it's like, oh, great, now you just want to replicate the exact same thing. The only thing you're changing is the gun and the BB or the projectile that you're using, But the problem is in paintball, you never really had the military side of things come into it because it was always frowned upon.
Yeah, was it a mixed match of play styles, isn't it? You got one style that's all about being fast, quick off it, and then you got the other side where airsoft is, like you're saying, that reenactment side of law and military. So things are a bit slower. You're a bit more considerate as to what's happening, a little bit more controlled on the trigger finger.
And I mean, there was an American president that said you can't please all the people all the time, and you're never going to with airsoft, but you can please some of the people most of the time. So please those guys, and everyone else can go and do something else.
They are. They're making their own tournaments and stuff.
Yeah, but make them elsewhere. Don't then bring it to a skirmish field, because that's where this us and them comes from. That's the core issue. So I think they're doing those
separate from, like, it's not a skirmish, it's like a tournament on that day. Yeah. So those people are separate. So like it's not like everybody coming is playing Speed QB. It's a completely separate. They're separate fields.
Yeah,
the players are separated.
Yeah,
but they're advertised in the same way and through the same channel, so you get those guys cross-pollinating their advertising into the other groups to try and pull more people towards it, rather than people finding it organically. And I think again, that's like you start putting division lines in by doing stuff like that, and it's
you don't get division lines by saying play my style or get out of the sport.
Well, no, but you do get it when you get Speedsofters turn around and going, no, you should do it my way. And it's like, no, we're fine over here doing this. We don't need you to change it for us,
Break it up.
It's the difference between debate and argument.
But no, I mean, I think there's a big difference between US and UK airsoft in that we don't have that area set up. I know we've got Skirmish in Nottingham who are trying to do their own speed soft days, but it is a paintball field with blow up inflatables and basically playing paintball but with airsoft guns. Whereas we don't really have these speed QB arenas yet. But I think there's definitely scope for one. I don't think you'll get anything in the southeast because I just don't think there's the demand or the cost of setting up a site. But in the Midlands, we can start seeing, I know we've had a few sites that were talking about adding that kind of speed QB element. And I'm trying to think of the site that's in the States, Toxicity. I think it is Toxicity, that have, full-blown tournaments, commentating, teams that are purely there for speed QB, right?
Toxicity had been doing it. In1 Airsoft is also doing it, Project In1. There's a couple of fields on the East Coast that are doing it now as well. It's mainly all indoor fields that are doing it, and they found that it's a good supplement to their income as well because, again, that's the indoor fields are more perfectly suited for it, and then also the airsoft fields that also did paintball, they're obviously well suited for it, and that's where I see those tournaments happen too. So it's not just one field; they're happening at several fields all over now.
And do you find it quite spectator friendly? Is it something that you've been to and seen, or not yet? It's
sort of. It needs to be more spectator friendly to do well, I think, and there's a lot of kinks to work out because there's obviously still lots of problems with like hit calling and etc. because you can't see where the BB hits. So there's still definitely a lot of kinks to work out. I think it has potential, but right now it's not uber spectator friendly just because airsoft fields in general aren't spectator friendly.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, as Jim was saying earlier, we were talking about a tournament called Formula 5, and the big thing from the start was how do we make sure this is spectator friendly, because that's what is going to be a key element into this kind of competitive side of airsoft, where it is beyond the players on the field there.
Yeah.
And interestingly, you may have seen this. We had Battle Arena. Sorry, I've just seen the dog in the background.
Cameo.
Distracted there. We had Battle Arena just a few months ago now. And I'm not sure if you saw it over there in the States. So we had, I want to say it was Cutthroat Killers or something like that, which was the US team that came over. But we will have them on the show in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, cool.
It's definitely an element as to where Airsoft is developing. And of course, we do see a lot of Speedsoft teams enter that type of competition. But I don't think that it's Speedsoft alone. I mean, we saw some guys from Russia who acted more like a military team or a squad as opposed to kind of running and gunning. Which will be interesting because that may settle the argument as whether airsofters, speedsofters, or milsimmers are better players. I have a feeling we won't get the ending answer there.
We'll never know until people are doing it for real.
Oh, that will go to the community news later on. Moving on. Toxicity, and again, this kind of doesn't shoot far off the previous conversation between players. Toxicity in airsoft, where is it stemming from? Is it necessary? Is it something that we still see a lot of? Is it something that could actually ever be eliminated? That is the next question going forward. We'll start that one with Sarah. You're the newest Airsofter of the show here, so you're the newest. Yeah, is it something you see a lot of, and how far would you say something is when it's toxic?
First, sort of, when I first heard that word used, it was only recently, and it was the whole discussion about YouTubers, airsoft YouTubers, who use cheaters as a hook line and a clickbait to get people to watch their videos. I think it was the guy from Airsoftology. I think he raised it.
Yeah.
That it isn't actually cheaters. It isn't actually non-hit takers. It isn't actually dead men talking. It's the people that actually call out these cheaters. And I did hear a strange rumor that some of these airsoft YouTubers actually pay someone to behave like a cheater so they can get their content for, I don't know how true it is, it's just something I heard on the grapevine. To
it
get
happens.
their, yeah. Oh, it is a thing then.
So a YouTuber, I won't mention his name, he's a friend, he's been on the show before, did have one of his either teammates or friends go out on the field and get shot.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, of course you do, yes. Who basically had his friend out on the field, get shot, and acted like he was the cheater. It only came to light once the site, after seeing the footage, wanted to find who this person was, and we're like, hang on, this isn't one of our players. This is actually one of your guys behind the camera. And that's why that person had to admit of what happened. And you've got to love the comments who are quite happily to throw the person's name out there in the comments section.
Oh no!
But I mean, it's happened. We've seen it happen.
Yeah.
I suppose whether that pressure of either having bad content or wanting the click of that hook at the start of the show.
Yeah.
So carry on, Sarah. But that's definitely happened.
But yeah, no, that's all I was going to say. That's the first time I've heard someone refer to toxicity in airsoft, and they were blaming airsoft YouTubers. So I find that very interesting. Is it that people just don't find general gameplay boring? Do we need something to, hook people in every time? I mean, you only got to look up airsoft YouTubers, any airsoft YouTuber, and the first things you see are the cheater videos. There's hundreds and thousands of these cheater videos. Is it causing toxicity? I don't know. I don't know what else would cause toxicity in airsoft. It's a funny subject, but yeah, that's the first time I've heard of it. Jim's gone. He's had enough.
Yeah. He's being toxic right now. He'll be back in a minute. So go then, Leah, your thoughts. Someone who's a YouTuber and a celebrity, if we put that statement out there, someone who's full time in airsoft. Toxicity to you. What does it mean? And where does it stem from?
I think it just stems from a lot of things. I think mostly it stems from the internet. Yeah. People trying to look tough or be tough or whatever they want to do on the internet, and that kind of drives me crazy. But I also see it happen with anybody that starts to gain a following in airsoft. So once you get past I don't know what it's, to me, from what I've seen, the magic mark seems to be 10,000 followers. So once you have 10,000 followers on Instagram or wherever else, people just start dropping hate on either comments or messages or spreading rumors. I see rumors about other airsofters all the time. I hate this person that I've never met, blah, blah, blah. I see that happen all the time, but maybe that's just something that you see if you're in the quote spotlight, which you've put yourself into. So I get that the whole mentality of you put yourself there, so you should have to deal with it. But I also think that people should just be good people also. I don't know. But I definitely see a lot of rumors going around about anybody that is trying to hustle in airsoft and to make airsoft bigger, and the only way to do that is social media platforms that I know of, because I don't know anywhere else that you can really advertise what we do.
No, you're right. That we can't advertise on the most common platforms out there, whether it's Google, Bing, Yahoo, anything like that. We can't do the traditional marketing, that's for sure. And it's the type of thing of putting it out in public doesn't necessarily bode well either. Run around with toy guns, it's not necessarily something that's going down well with public generally. So I think you're right. I mean, social networks is the one where we can reach out to people who are doing what we're doing and just trying to build a bigger hobby or a bigger industry.
Yeah, and the cheater videos suck. I agree with that, but people need to stop clicking on them. That's why algorithm favors it, because people click on them. And so that's something that myself and several other people that are in North America that are YouTubers talk about is how do we stop that? Because we freaking hate it. It's really annoying, but it's also like one of the only ways that your channel will grow. And that's a struggle for us all the time, is it's so annoying, but like clickbait seems to be the only way that people will click on your channel. They won't click for like regular stuff. They own, like, if the internet wants a change, they're the ones that have to make it. And so if you don't want to see that stuff, then stop clicking on it.
This is kind of very similar to the Airsoft gun bunnies cover. If you don't want to see it, stop clicking on it, and it's the same thing with cheater videos. I mean, the stats are there. Yeah, it's proven people click cheater videos the same way that they watch football injuries, not football highlight reels. You know, they watch the injuries, they watch the red cards, they watch the riots on the fields. I think some of this is kind of down to the way humans work, and they want to see the kind of the worst part that happens.
Yeah.
In Airsoft, that tends to be the fights and the cheating incidents, or the guys that get lit up, which is very hard when, like you say, that's the algorithm, that's what it will promote. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a cheater video, even just putting cheater in the topic. So, for example, Jonathan Airsoftology, he has done several kind of episodes talking about cheaters, and they tend to be the more popular of his videos just by talking about it. Yep. Because, like you say, it's ranking up, and he's not even doing a cheater video in itself there. Jim, what's your thoughts on stuff like this? You know, toxicity, cheater videos?
Well, cheater videos are just boring anyway. They're just like, that's not the sort of stuff that I look for on YouTube, or you know, if I'm looking for something airsoft related, it's going to be either about something or someone deliberate. I mean, yeah, there is you are 100% right in that it is, you know, human nature to look for, you know, people having a shit time. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, whether it's like you know, you've been framed sort of candid camera thing of people falling over, having accidents, or fights breaking out, or and you know, sometimes they can be fun to watch, but I think for the most time I think the big problem has come with the airsoft cheater videos is that, well, it harms the sport more than it helps the sport, because it makes it seem like everyone's cheaters except that one person. Like, you have to have a YouTube account to not be a cheater, and that's not the case either. Because I know for a fact
all YouTubers are cheaters. What are you talking about?
Well, I know for a fact there's plenty of YouTubers that are cheaters and have been caught out as such, you know, because, you know, it's when they don't realise that someone else has got a GoPro running and it shows them getting hit and what have you. And I mean, there's a couple I can think of, most of them UK based, where they're deliberately sticking crosshairs over and making the sound like someone's been hit, and it's not even a shot been fired. And, you know, it's like all that shit happens. And I think the problem is like, you know, stop trying to make money out of airsoft. Just play the fucking game. You know, it's like, if you want to make money out of airsoft, build a gun, own a site, or run a shop. You know, the whole influencers thing is something I think, like, the people that I want to follow are the people that I think have got something of value to offer, not because, oh, I'm going to go and click on his videos because he's got the #1 YouTube account for airsoft, or he comes up the most in it. When, you know, it's like, I mean, I'm not being nasty about the guy, but the whole Novrich thing, I think, like, that to me is like, the guy's huge, and yet I watch the gameplay videos and what have you, and think, oh, it's so one-sided. And it doesn't show. It's not real airsoft. Like, it might be very cleverly edited, you know, but at no point does that show you what the experience of playing an airsoft game's like. And then you get loads of people coming to an airsoft site for the first time with that experience in mind, thinking that they're going to run around and get headshots on everyone all day long, and they only need to have that gun for that to work. And again, I think that sort of forms a really negative, that is the toxic part of it. It's not necessarily the reaction, it's what you're seeding out there. Like, is that a realistic thing? Is it fun to watch? Fuck yeah, probably for a lot of people. But is it? It's like that whole thing about, like, reality TV. You know, there's no reality in reality TV, and I think the same is true for not all, but a lot of the YouTube stuff that's out there. Now, I haven't watched every single YouTube video, so I'm not saying they're all the same. There's probably loads that are, but the ones that get a lot of the really high ranking tend to be full of shit. So, you know, it just really fucking does my head in.
I don't know. I think it depends what you get your enjoyment out. I mean, I've watched Norwich since before he was 10,000 subscribers. Now, I'm not saying I watched every single one of his videos, but it was, you know, while he was still an electrician or whatever he was doing at the time. And I think the content's enjoyable. I don't want to watch a video of someone dying 15 times in a row, walking back to spawn and going back out again. I would just want to see a montage.
No, but then go and play the game.
But I do play the game.
But that's the thing, why watch a video at all? Just go and play it.
But you said that you get tons of people that come play Airsoft because they saw a video.
Yes.
Yeah, but that doesn't
so
mean
those are toxic people?
No, that's not
Just
what I said.
because they saw
no, that wasn't what I said. You know, very clever, but not what I said. You know, the point is, it's like, what type of people are you getting there? Are you getting the right people? You can have loads of people. I mean, there was loads of people turned up at Nuremberg for a big rally. You're getting
new players.
But,
that's good.
you know, yeah, but have they got the right image of what Airsoft is?
Well, isn't that the sites or the where you're playing? Isn't that your job to teach them Airsoft while they're playing?
But then
at least that's what I feel. I feel.
But then if the videos that are out there are telling them something different to what the sites are telling them or what the retailers are telling them, then, you know, what do you do? Because unfortunately, popularity rules.
No, I agree with Leah in the fact that a video is for entertainment, and it shouldn't. You know, you're not there to represent the whole day. Even these Milsim videos where they try and document a whole weekend, it just doesn't happen. You have to be there for the experience, for the full experience. You know, we can only show a highlight of it. I do think YouTube's played a huge impact into the growth of Airsoft. And you're right, it does definitely bring in some of the worst players, but I also think it brings out some of the best players. You know, some of the people that I play with now either started because they were, you know, Call of Duty or Battlefield players, saw YouTube, found a Norwich video or Bodjobs video and got into Airsoft, and they played to this day. I think as Airsoft grows, we do always see, you know, that negative and the worst players are always going to be a percentage, and it's probably more prevalent now as Airsoft's grown. But I do think some people mix that level of what a video is to who someone is when they get on the day. But again, you're right, and there will definitely be a percentage of players that watch a video and expect that type of gameplay when they're there. You know, when they realize that their new sniper rifle doesn't shoot more than 50 meters and it doesn't outrange an AEG, and it doesn't shoot the laser like what they saw. That there's always a percentage, but I still think most people go there with an idea as to what they expect without a video kind of tailoring like they should never be shot. I'd like to think most people still see there's more entertainment than realism on these videos, but I guess there is definitely people who don't.
But you're also appealing to a much younger audience a lot of the time. I mean, I see it in the shop where people come in and go, you know, I saw that YouTube video, that's what I want. And that's like, they wouldn't pick up a magazine. They wouldn't do much more research beyond that. Yeah. And it's like, you know, yes, it's everyone's job to educate for the best practices of Airsoft. But when you're bombarded, well, bombarded is the wrong word, but when the first port of call is those videos for a lot of people, because, you know, yeah, people don't want to read. You know, people would rather watch rather than read. You know, we can talk to the book industry because they've been up against that for years. So it's not a new thing. But while you know, as a YouTuber, you also have a responsibility. You know, you can't just say, oh, it's entertainment, because you're putting something out there into the world that you're responsible for. You're responsible for whether it's true, whether it's, you know, factually correct, or whether it's, you know, complete fabrication and full of shit. And if it's full of shit, just say it's full of shit and it's for fun and it's entertainment. But don't then try and use it to sell something or to sell an idea of something, because that's not fair to the end user.
Look at the boxing scene. Look at the fighting scene. The UFC, for example, there's plenty of stuff they put out which is not true, but it's caused a drama. And, you know, that's not what the fight was about when they got there. I still think there's an entertainment level which, you know, whether it's satire, whether it's just for dramatic effect, you shouldn't necessarily have to pre-warn everyone. But of course, there's always going to be a percentage of players that look at a HPA gun and go, I want that because I saw loads of people fall down in pain. And I'm sure the 40 mics sold to a certain percentage of people that saw that video and were like, yes, that's what I want.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't think that works for everybody.
I do agree with Jim that there needs to be some level of responsibility from everybody that is in the industry. So whatever you're doing, if you are working in a shop, if you're working at a field, if you are someone that's on the internet a lot, or whatever it is, I do agree that you do definitely have some form of responsibility, and you should bring some form of integrity to that as well. We also see companies that use just regular advertising techniques because they work a lot better, and so I definitely think it's a catch-22. But I also definitely agree with Jim in that you do need to be honest about what you're doing. You shouldn't be paying people to make cheater videos. That's ridiculous. But at the same time, you do have to be entertaining, so you have to figure out where to draw that line. Yeah. And that line should not be being completely false, because we definitely don't want to bring people into the hobby and they have a completely wrong vision of what it looks like, because then when they get to the field, they're going to have a really terrible time because they have no idea what to expect. So
I think milsims have come on
line we have to walk.
I mean, milsims, we've seen a lot of milsims that get advertised as one thing, and when a player gets there after 8 hours and they've not had a single engagement, they kind of look around and go, what have I paid for? What was this? Again, I don't know if that's the same thing in the States, but there are videos that will make out like a milsim's the most epic weekend, and sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. You've got to be in the right place at the right time sometimes.
Yeah. And it also depends on your initiative as a player too.
Yeah, 100%.
This is 90% of it sitting in a wet field with a cold bum. That's all it is. 10% is action. And that's what you see on the YouTube videos.
Yeah, nobody wants to see anybody sitting around for hours. At least not in real time.
Yeah, but that's it, isn't it? I mean, that is what we were saying earlier, like what Jim was saying about setting expectation of, for a milsim video, you just bring out the highlights. Doesn't mean that was the whole weekend of action from start to finish. But some people are always going to watch that video and go, oh, well, it's clearly meant to be, 48 hours of non-stop fighting. You just hope that the rest of the people have a bit more common sense as to what's happening over a weekend.
Yeah, you would think so if they are watching a video that is only 10 minutes long and it's showing 40 hours of action. You would think that that would compute somewhere. But
yeah, clearly missed the step. The other thing, what's interesting, me and Jim have that background, and the fact that we've played since before YouTube was around, when YouTube wasn't even a thing. So for us, finding airsoft was about bringing a friend, and you then, you bring them in. You're responsible for making sure they come with the right attitude. And that doesn't happen anymore. You don't necessarily come in because a friend's brought you in. And if they have, sometimes they might just leave you for the day and you're on your own.
Oh.
Well, I also think there's
that happen a lot here, but maybe it's different.
I think there's a rite of passage that's being lost for most airsoft players as well. It's I think you should have to go and buy a shit gun first and then sort of progress your way up, rather than going, this is the best gun on the market. This is the one that you should buy because I use it, sponsored by a brand, whatever. Fuck off.
In my day.
No, but I think you're sort of denying people the ability to learn. It's like you're almost like skipping out, B and C in the alphabet and just getting people to just jump straight to D all the time. And you don't learn, in my opinion, you don't learn as much by doing that as you can by, finding out the hard way. There should be a little bit of sort of self-teaching going on as well. It shouldn't all be being spoon-fed to people, because, there's too many people that think life should be spoon-fed to them. So, bring it to airsoft as well.
As long as, I do think that guns... I think one of the great things that's come from airsoft and airsoft getting bigger, is that you can buy an affordable gun that performs decently out of the box, that doesn't cost because I know it used to cost $500 to buy gun with like all plastic internals and it was shit, and then you had to work on it. And it, like, I'm glad that we don't have that kind of learning curve anymore, because I think that's definitely detrimental to the hobby growing. I agree with you that I don't think that people should be totally dishonest of, here, just buy this gun because a sponsor gave it to me. I think there needs to be a little more transparency as far as either I'm working with this company or I'm not working with this company. This gun is good, but here are some of the drawbacks of it. I think that definitely needs to happen, and I wish it would happen a little bit more. But I am glad for social media in the sense that it's given us the tools for Airsoft to grow a lot more quickly and to get a lot more people into Airsoft in a much shorter amount of time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's no denying that social media, YouTube has grown. All of these platforms have grown Airsoft significantly faster than what we had beforehand. There's no doubt about it. It's been probably the biggest growth factor. So just to see that, Richard left a comment of saying, no, you should start with a TM recoil on finance. I think that's the thing. There is definitely that percentage of people that just go out and just go, well, I've got the money, or I haven't got the money, and I'll put it on a card of buying what they consider the best, rather than kind of almost working your way up to it.
Yeah, I think that buying the best gun available for your very first gun is not a good way to go. I think you should just buy a decent gun for a good price, because who knows how long you're going to play. Like, what if you buy a $400 gun and it breaks within a couple months or something like that? You're obviously going to quit pretty soon. But if you buy a $200 gun and you can use it for several months and then maybe it breaks, and it's something that is easy or cheaper to fix, then you might be more likely to stay a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And don't buy a sniper rifle as your first gun. Please.
Just don't buy a sniper rifle.
Yeah, I do see a lot of people doing that.
Yeah, it's that unfortunate one where they go, oh, it's not really like what I was expecting. It's like, no, you really don't outshoot a lot of people. You've only got one shot. It's great if you enjoy that game style, but it's a different style from Airsoft, really.
It's definitely hard at pickup games. I always see lots of sniper rifles at pickup games.
Yeah.
I'm always like, oh, I'm sorry. We always offer to let those kids borrow our guns for a little bit. Like, oh man, you're only getting bolt action. You need something else. Here, go use this grenade launcher. Go use this for a game. Have fun.
So talking about you and Jet going to games, something we wanted to talk about tonight was the Blue Fox Tracker. Now, I know it's primarily a US thing, but you are looking to expand over the time and as you're rolling this out. So can you give everyone a run through as to what Blue Fox Tracker is, and I'll load it up on the panel here for everyone to see.
Yes. So the Blue Fox Tracker is currently an app that you use while playing Airsoft. It's an augmented reality style app. And right now it's currently only available at Desert Fox Events Games because we're in the beta testing mode. However, in a few weeks, we'll be rolling it out to everybody. And so everyone will be able to download and use features of this app without having to attend a Desert Fox Events game. And within the app, it allows you to keep some stats so you can see how many kills you've gotten. I'm sorry. Right now, you can't see how many kills you've gotten, but that will be something that's coming out in the future. You'll be able to see how many times you've died, what your current status is, what's going on with the rest of your team or squad. So within the app, you will be able to see the one that's going to be available to everyone. You'll be able to see your squad. Everyone will have icons for their squad, so you'll be able to see your squad moving around on the field. The image that's up right now is from an older iteration, so now the Blue Fox Tracker actually has satellite mode. It takes its name from something that they use in the military called the Blue Force Tracker, which has kind of a lot of the same principles. But this works more so like a Battlefield 1 match, if you've ever played Battlefield 1 or any types of video games. So you can set capture points. You can see them getting captured live in real time. You can set waypoints. You can ask for a medic. You can chat with, you'll be able to chat with just your squad. You'll be able to chat with other squads as well within the feature. So it'll be something really handy, especially for milsim games. If you're going to large scale event games, you can download that. It'll be really cheap. And you'll be able to use it. That way you can keep track of your squad. You can keep track of where everyone is. You can see each other. You'll be able to customize your loadout. So you'll be able to show everything that you're running. And it's just going to keep getting modified over and over again. And soon it will be available to everyone in the world. We are working on figuring out how we can make it available in the UK. Because right now in the UK, you guys have privacy laws where you can't have any sort of tracker apps, which is exactly what the Blue Fox tracker is because it follows you around on the battlefield and shows where you are in real time. So we are working on figuring out a way around that so you guys can use it in the UK once it comes out. So hopefully that will be something that you guys can do as well. So that will be out and available for everybody to use in about 5 weeks or so. And of course, you can always use every aspect of the app at Desert Fox Events Games. If you ever come to one here in the US, we're hoping to expand throughout the world too. It just is going to take some time as we grow and build.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people, especially more obviously in the States, have gone to the Desert Fox events and have come away with it going, I wasn't too sure about the app before I started, and then now they finished it. They're like, oh, it was such a brilliant idea, such an awesome way of working with my squad and notifying them when I'm dead and I need a medic and stuff like that. I know Kev, who was reading earlier on, left a review about how he used his. And I chat to Kev quite a lot, and he put a video together about how he uses and how much of an improvement it can make to your games.
Yeah,
and obviously you've got your pouch for it so that you can have your phone out on the field. Which I know is always the question people have on there.
Yeah, it's really handy for people that want to be in firefights all the time because you always know where the objective is. So if you want to be in a firefight the entire day, you can totally do that, which is handy for those people that want nothing but trigger time. And then they leave their command. It's easier for the people that are commanders as well because you can see where everybody is on your app and be like, oh, here's my squad here. Now I can send this squad over here or over there, wherever you need to send people. And it just makes your life a lot easier for everybody.
Nice, cool. Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see when it's over here in the UK, and I'll jump on with my team and see how it works in terms of working over here. I know there's been stuff in the past that have been tried and failed. But it's good to see. I mean, you guys have had a lot of support and backing from some of these events in the past to see, it actually working in a field event and making a big run of it. So exciting to see. And,
we're trying.
Yeah,
costs a lot of money to make apps, man.
Don't I know it?
For anybody that's like, why isn't this for free? It's because it costs a lot of money to build an app, like tens and tens of thousands of dollars that we're all investing. So that's why the app can't be free, because we've all invested several tens of thousands of dollars into it. So unfortunately, it can't be free.
It's not just done and left, you're constantly making sure it works. So no, best of luck, and I do look forward to seeing that.
Thanks.
And who knows, maybe a Desert Fox UK event, that would be amazing.
That would be.
So the next thing on our news is community news. Now, there was one thing specifically that we want to talk about this week, and I'm sure a lot of people would have spotted it. Let me share the window now. Jim, do you want to talk about this one?
No, because I think out of all of us, when we spoke about it, I was the one that was least interested in this stupid fucking idea that's obviously being put together by someone with more money than sense.
These are the type of projects that we love to see.
This is the sort of circus. That's what it is.
Sarah, go on.
Yeah.
Well, it just sounds like the tagline for some beginning of some horror film, really, doesn't it? Mystery millionaire private
Right?
island. No one can hear you scream. And was it £100,000, isn't it? If someone doesn't die, I would be disappointed.
I know, it seems like people will actually die there. Like it's the perfect makings for a horror movie.
They won't have any trouble finding 100 people to do it, because there are probably more than 100 nutters who would have a go at that purely just for the money.
Count me in. I saw this and was excited. All you naysayers.
Graham's on the first plane over.
That's it. I bought a ticket to my private mystery island. I'll set the premise for anyone who hasn't seen the news. An anonymous millionaire who actually runs Hush Hush, a jewelry website, is planning on creating these real-life battle royale. So if you've played Fortnite or PUBG or you've seen the Hunger Games, it's going to be 100-person event, battle to death, not really a death, but elimination match on a private island. So if we think about PUBG or Fortnite, you're going to parachute in some way, shape or form to a private island, presumably start with nothing, and compete to eliminate the other 100 people with airsoft guns for a cash prize of £100,000 or $140,000. I thought this was amazing, and a load of people have been writing it off. And if it was a few days early on April Fool's, I would have been gutted, but it did only come out on April the 11th. I can't believe how many people said no to this and don't think it will happen. I think it's got a huge possibility. I'd be interested if they're going to live stream the event, because that to me is what has to be done. You've got to live stream an event like this.
Yeah, each one of the players.
Well, that's it. Yeah, absolutely.
I think I agree that it's a really cool concept, and I think that it's awesome, and it would be really cool to do this. I am just skeptical about it because I'm skeptical about how, one, like, this is a millionaire. Rich people usually don't get rich by hosting like large scale events for where they profit absolutely nothing. So I'm just curious as to like what's in it for the investor, and also whether or not they would even allow airsofters to do it, because like they had the Mr. Beast huge game thing.
Yep.
And everything that's where they use airsofters and that are made in order to like generate a lot of hype, I noticed they don't recruit actual airsofters, or they don't let actual airsofters play. No. And I'm sure that is to keep the playing field even, because obviously someone with a lot of experience in one field should do better than someone with absolutely no experience in that field. So I'm just skeptical as to whether or not, if this happens, whether or not they would even allow airsofters to compete in this. And then just how in the world are they going to make sure that people call their hits? I don't know. Because when there's that much money on the line.
They're talking about having suits that you can feel, or haptic suits, however it is, where you can feel your hits. It is only a 12-hour event, but it's over a couple of days. So overnight, it is campfire, relax, and probably socialize between the events. So it's not like it's a full-out event where you're not stopping all through the day and night. I'll be interested to see where they're putting it. If it's a private island, where is this? Because like you say, it's a huge cost. We're not just talking £100,000 prize fund, but we're talking about who's going to get these flights and get people there, setting up the whole event, and they are paying.
Yeah.
So this kind of came to me when the job application basically came through to my inbox, where they're looking for a talented game maker to help organize and design the arena for a £45,000 6-week contract. And that's kind of how it came to me. Yeah, it came to me like, oh, look, this may be something you're interested in. So, I mean, they're looking for a game designer to make the actual event. So clearly the person's just like, I've got money. I just need someone to organize it. Now, Jim said this sounded very similar to a Netflix TV series or documentary.
Yeah, it was the Fire app thing where it's like they
Fire.
Yeah,
the music festival.
Fire festival, yeah.
And it's like we've got a private island. It's not really a private island. You'll be sharing it with lots of other people. We've got tents for everyone. We haven't really got tents for everyone. And you know, I think it's the old saying. You know, if it looks too good to be true, it usually is. And you know, it's like rich people can afford to be really fucking weird, and that's what being rich is about. And I think that there's going to be 100 people going to that island that are going to be raped and murdered.
That's what I think.
There's no airsoft. It's probably got a tiger on that island, and he just wants to see how many people his tiger can eat. That's what I'd do if I was that rich that I could do that. That's the sort of shit I would want to do. You know, and like you say,
I would be checking my terms and conditions.
If I was that rich, I wouldn't be here tonight. But no, I think it's fucking insane, and you know,
okay, so
you'd have to be an idiot to want to do it.
If it was genuine and you got a free ticket to go, would you still say no?
Absolutely.
Oh, really? Okay, Sarah, would you go if you had a free ticket to go?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You'd go.
Oh yeah, it's an experience, isn't it? Even if it's a shit experience, you can say you went.
As long as there's a trip home, right?
I survived and make myself a patch. I survived this shit thing.
And Leah, I presume you would go, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Sarah. I mean, it's an experience, and I'm also of the mindset that, like, I'm not going to talk shit on anything until I've done it, so might as well do it. Like, once I've done it, then I can have an opinion about it. But until then, it's like, well, I can make up a lot of opinions, but they might not necessarily be true. So I might as well experience it for myself and figure it out.
Said everyone right before they were raped and murdered. I'm not rich people.
You have such a sunny disposition, Jim.
Look, I think the ultimate thing is that someone put money up for it. Now, knowing what people will do for money, you know, you telling me that
not even money, just free BBs.
Yeah. So if it was for no money whatsoever, and it's just the guy put it on because he wanted to create a great event and wanted to do it, but there was no prize fund for it, then definitely I'd be up for it. But the moment you put money involved in it, people are going to cheat. People are going to find a way of cheating the system. And, you know, whoever wins it, they're going to get called out as being the person that either cheated or if they won it fairly or not. Just purely because there's... Yeah, well, there'll be all those sort of claims and things like that. So I think you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you take the money out of it, it could be a really, really good event.
But
and like you say, how does someone make money out of it?
That's why you have a camera on your head, Jim, to prove that you...
What, to put it on my YouTube channel? And so I can do cheat videos with it. No, this is...
if he's got enough money for a private island, £100,000 prize fund, and
he can get 100 friends to go and play airsoft with him. Right? You don't need to put up a weird competition for it. It's just weird.
I expect an air balloon with a screen telling me who's been eliminated. I expect that force field to actually do something when it comes down and hits you and takes you out of the game.
I'd expect special forces to come and rescue me when I find out that this event is just some really scary time on an island with a creepy old dude.
Well, I will be looking forward to see if this becomes a thing. I've never heard of Hush Hush before this one time, so this could be a huge PR thing, a huge PR thing for them. But
and why is he anonymous? Like,
he's not.
I don't get.
Some people say he's anonymous, but there are reports of the actual guy and a photo of him while he's talking about what he's doing.
Just come out and say it's me. I've got this kind of money, and you know, it doesn't need to be so cryptic. It's
why do you
weird.
want? I get it though. If I had hella money, if I had an insane amount of money, I probably wouldn't want I wouldn't want to be like, "Hey guys, look, I've got a lot of money. Look at me. Here's my address."
How much does it cost to kill somebody? £100,000 and a private island.
That's the thing. Like, he's trying to remain anonymous, so there's not a trail back to him. That's what that is.
Yeah,
It's
it all
got nothing
goes
to do
wrong.
with, yeah, it's got nothing to do with him not wanting to know how rich, people knowing how rich he is or anything like that. He's just a creepy old guy with a tiger. And Graham, when you go, I will make sure that your funeral is taken care of. Don't worry about it. But on your headstone, it will say, "I fucking told you so."
Well, like I say, I look forward to see if anything comes out of this, because it'll be fun. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think Airsoft will really hit someone's commenting there about, do you think the news will comment on the Airsoft side? It'll be hit across gaming sides, won't it? It'll be the Battle Royale stuff rather than Airsoft.
Organised littering hits an island. That'll be the news report, yeah.
Hundreds of penguins have been eating these BBs. Yeah, I was like, no one said it was going to be a really nice, jungle. It's blatantly going to be the Antarctic or something. You'll just be dropped off there.
Tiger chokes on BB.
But yeah, I thought it was interesting news. Like I say, if it'd come out the week before, I wouldn't have believed the word of it. But now I've got some sort of hope. Maybe this could really be a thing. And as Leah said, we've missed the beast giving away £100,000 the other week. It's more of a case of how this person makes money out of an event like this. But there's got to be so much potential in making money of an event like this. You could be walking around, there'd be EA boards everywhere as promoting Battlefield 1 or whatever. But yeah, exciting and funny. And you watch, it'll be just like the Maz G. We won't see it for 5 years. And someone will say, do you remember that competition that never happened? Who knows? But that was pretty much it in the community news. And just checking out, there was one about the police, but we can hold that another time. Police scare tactics as always, but we can worry about that for another week. Leah, if anyone wants to get in touch, how can they get in contact with you or Jet, or even try the tracker?
So if you want to check out the Desert Fox events, just go to desertfoxevents.com. Also, there's my information. I am at the Tactical Unicorn on Instagram. Also, UnicornLeah on Facebook and UnicornLeah on YouTube. Those are really the main social medias that I use. I don't really use anything else. So message me on one of those if you have a burning question, I guess.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been great fun, and I look forward to seeing the tracker when it's over here.
Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Sarah, how can people get in touch with you?
You can find me at _Tactiquin on Instagram, and I am on Twitter at @CTactiquin.
Jim.
Just don't get in contact with me.
You're getting all the complaints.
Where can people send their lawsuits and complaints?
You can send it to my island, and my tiger will deal with it for you. No. Yeah, there's an Instagram thing and stuff, but yeah, it'll be in a bio somewhere.
Well, guys, if you have enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. We go live every Monday at 8 p.m. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much, Leah, for coming on the show. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.